Imagine standing on the rugged hills of ancient Italy, where war cries echoed and blood was spilled not for conquest, but for survival. This is the story of the Samnites, a fierce and proud people who challenged the might of Rome itself. Before the Roman Empire engulfed the peninsula, the Samnites were its strongest obstacle. And why does history often forget them? The Samnites were not just another tribe. They were a confederation of warlike Italic peoples inhabiting the Apennine Mountains in south-central Italy. Unlike the Romans, who believed in central authority, the Samnites preferred a loose tribal system. Yet, when danger approached, they united like a storm, powerful and relentless. Their origins trace back to the 7th century BCE. Influenced by the Oscan-speaking peoples, the Samnites developed a distinct culture, rooted in resilience, independence, and warfare. Their homeland was rugged, filled with steep mountains and narrow valleys, shaping them into skilled guerrilla fighters, masters of ambush and terrain warfare. But what brought them into direct conflict with Rome? It began in the 4th century BCE. Rome was expanding rapidly, consuming its neighbors, hungry for power and territory. In contrast, the Samnites wanted to preserve their autonomy and protect their mountainous homeland. This clash of ambition and resistance led to the Samnite Wars, a series of brutal conflicts that spanned nearly half a century. The First Samnite War 341 BCE was just the beginning. It was a brief but fierce struggle that ended in a Roman victory, yet the peace was uneasy. Soon came the Second Samnite War 630 BCE, and this time, the Samnites struck back with vengeance. In 321 BCE, they humiliated the Romans at the Battle of the Caudine Forks, entire Roman army in a mountain pass and forcing them to surrender without a fight. This moment sent shockwaves through Rome. Invincible Roman pride was shattered. The Samnites made the Romans march under the yoke, a symbolic act of humiliation. It was a rare moment where Rome tasted defeat not by foreign invaders, but by local rivals. However, Rome doesn't forget, and more importantly, Rome doesn't forgive. In the years that followed, the Romans adapted. They improved their military tactics, fortified their colonies, and began a relentless campaign against the Samnites. The Third Samnite War 298-90 BCE saw massive coalitions. The Samnites joined forces with the Gauls, Etruscans, and Umbrians. It was their last stand. The decisive Battle of Sentinum in 295 BCE was a turning point. Though the Samnites and their allies fought valiantly, the Romans, under Consul Publius Decius, ultimately won. The defeat crippled the Samnites. By 290 BCE, after nearly 50 years of warfare, the Samnites were forced into submission. Rome had broken their spirit, but not their legacy. So what made the Samnites such effective warriors? Their military system was surprisingly sophisticated. They used the manipular system before the Romans adopted it, dividing soldiers into small, flexible units that allowed more agile movement in rough terrain. They wore distinctive armor and carried curved swords called Samnite gladiators, ideal for close combat. Their culture also celebrated warrior values. Young men underwent tough initiation rituals. Honor in battle was everything. Even though defeated, the Samnites never vanished. They continued to rebel against Roman dominance for decades. They fought during the Social War 9188 BCE, demanding Roman citizenship and equal rights. Though crushed once again, their fight influenced Rome to eventually grant citizenship to all Italic peoples. Their blood, sweat, and sacrifice were not in vain. Culturally, the Samnites left a deep imprint on Italian heritage. Archaeological finds from their tombs show a rich artistic tradition, colorful pottery, bronze weapons, intricate jewelry. Their temples and sacred sites reveal a spiritual people who worship nature, ancestral spirits, and war gods. Even their language Oscan survived for centuries. But history, as written by the victors, often hides the stories of the defeated. The Samnites were portrayed by Roman historians as barbarians and rebels. But in truth, they were defenders of freedom, identity, and homeland. In many ways, they were Rome's mirror, fierce, strategic, and unyielding. Today, the Samnites are being rediscovered. Modern historians and archaeologists are shedding light on their lost glory. Their bravery, their defiance, and their unique culture are finally being honored. So next time you hear about Rome's unstoppable rise, remember those who stood in the way. Remember the Samnites, the forgotten warriors of ancient Italy who dared to challenge an empire. Because sometimes the true heroes of history are not those who conquer, but those who resist.